So I've now just entered in the IP or link to the Metasys server, and I can go ahead and log into Metasys. And when I first log into Metasys, I'm brought to the campus view. And at any point on the left here, you'll see the spaces tree. If we have a graphic defined for that particular space, that graphic shows up. So you're looking at the campus view of the graphics right now. If I clicked on my building, my hospital, what you'll get if there's a graphic defined is a building level view of that hospital, the critical systems, what the central plant's doing, what the boilers are doing, main air handlers. You can navigate through the graphics, so if you need to go and look at the first or the second floor, I can click through and get to a floor plan graphic. We do have the thermal graphics, so as conditions change in the spaces, the operator can visually detect if something is either in warning or alarm. They can drill down and diagnose that problem further through the graphic. But basically, these graphics are customizable. So we can almost build, any graphic to suit your needs, whether that's the background or the artwork or the floor plans. But what I want to do is go back up to the campus level, because I see a lot of operators, when they first log into Metasys, they kind of want to get that big picture view of what's going on in the facility. And we've introduced this potential problem areas report. And what this is an interactive report of anything that's not normal in the facility. So any data point that's in alarm, any point that's in warning, anything that's been overridden, we can filter down. I see a lot of users come in, they just want to see over the last shift what's been overridden, so they'll filter down and look at the overrides. And it's just a good starting point to drill in to figure out what's next. What do I need to diagnose? What are my high priority issues on a shift change? I can export this list as well to store it off, or to keep kind of a difference, right? At the start of shift, I can export it at the end of shift, and I can look to see that I've made the adjustments in the system necessary to fix those problems. Okay, I'm at the campus now, but let's say I'm gonna drill in and look at a floor, for instance. Again, we can drill through our spaces navigation, click down to the floor. But what I want to point out is we have the same spaces dashboard now filtered down to the floor. So I can see just the potential problem areas that are affecting the floor. I can see some critical systems that are affecting the floor, the air handler. And I can also get comparisons of the zones. So if I click down and look at my VAV boxes, I get a tabular view of the floor. I can sort on the lowest, highest temperature in the system. I can also command. So anywhere in here where you see a link, a web link, I can go into our commanding dialog. So if I need to change the zone temperature set point, I click in, I can adjust it, I can override. So one of the things that we do have now is something called the temporary override. So we can put something in override for a period of time, and after that time expires, the control logic will go back to whatever it was doing previous. So that's kind of a nice feature within Metasys that we've added. I've been to a number of customer sites where they previously were doing permanent overrides. For instance, a hot water coil was open to 100%. They kind of forgot about it, and a month or two later came back and realized that heating coil was still in override. And that's a big energy waster. So this is a nice enhancement for us to kind of tidy up that control on the facility. Let's imagine now that I got a phone call or maybe a work order, a hot or cold call in room 2. So I can type in real quickly a space or equipment name and navigate right to that space. So I'm going to drill into room 2. And what you'll notice, again, we filter that spaces dashboard down to just the contents in that room or the data that's in that room. And we provide a widget, we call them, called the equipment serving space. So this tells the operator which VAV box, for instance, is serving which room. And furthermore, those mechanical systems that I was referencing earlier, which air handler serves which VAV, and some key information about the central plants. But right away, as an operator, I can kind of tell if the problem's localized to the terminal unit or to a system like an air handler or a central plant higher up in that mechanical serving chain. And that helps me because I'm not having to navigate around the system, going through various graphics or the all items tree or user views to understand what is serving what in the facility. I don't have to carry a binder around anymore for those larger sites, so I can remember which terminal unit serving which room. The software presents that to me, which is really a time saver and efficiency saver as well. If you do have multiple equipment that's serving the room, for instance a lighting integration, I can go in and filter on the lighting and tell which zone is affecting that room and make adjustments to that lighting as well. So not only the HVAC system, but anything that really fits into the spaces model that we can pull into Metasys through BACnet or one of the other integrations that we support. So next, I'm going to go up to our air handler because I think the problem is with the air handler at this point. I looked at the floor, I looked at the various equipment that we compared with the equipment summary, and I looked at the terminal unit as well. So I think the problem might be with the air handler. So I'm going to search for that air handler. We can go to AHU1. And if there's a graphic, again, if we have graphics configured in the system, a graphic will display that represents that equipment. You can see here that the fan is animating, the supply fan's on. You can get data about the coil, what positions it's at, anything that we've configured to that graphic. We can also command from this graphic as well. If you picture on a tablet, we support the tap and mobile gestures, so you can tap the point and you get your commanding dialog from your mobile device as well. So we have optimized it for those platforms. But what I want to now show you is what we call the equipment dashboard. And this is where we get to the trend data for this particular air handler or any other piece of equipment that's in Metasys. So I can go back up to a year if I need to. I can select what other points I need to view. So if I'm diagnosing an issue with static pressure, I can look at the duct static pressure versus duct static pressure set point. The software will automatically split the axis if I'm looking at multi-state or binary points versus analog points. But I also get the served by relationships. So this is another way we're using those mechanical system view. I can see data kind of smartly selected from the equipment that might be affecting this air handler. So I can look at chilled water supply temperature versus discharge air temperature on my air handler, for instance. We also provide PDF or CSV Excel exports of this trend data. So I can quickly go in, select the points I need, and generate a report that I can email off or open in Excel. But basically, the software will download a file, and I get kind of a nice looking PDF report with the data values and the graph that's shown based on the current filters. The next thing I'll show is our equipment activity. And this is really a view of any user changes, so all the audit data in the system, the event data, so any alarms that may have happened on this piece of equipment over time. I can go back up to a year. I can filter down, so if I'm just looking at discharge air temperature, I can filter down to see who's changing that discharge air temperature set point, when it last changed. And I can drill in further and see the user that made that change and when that change was made. So really a nice way to look at who's changing what within the facility to kind of get that picture. Then I can look at the trend on the same graph as well to correlate this information. Our equipment data widget down here on the bottom right, this is basically anything that's in the network view for this controller or piece of equipment. So this might be some more of your advanced control points that that a control specialist might be looking at, but you can get at anything through the equipment data widget. And then equipment relationships is the last widget on our equipment dashboard. This tells the user which equipment is served by which other equipment, so it tells me which VAVs are served by this air handler. It also tells me which spaces this air handler serves. It's really important for newer users that are just coming up to speed on the mechanical system in the facility, because it tells them what this unit affects. Because if they're going to make a change on a critical piece of equipment, they might decide, because they've seen that this serves an ER or some other critical space, that to ask somebody else before they commit that change. The next thing I'm going to go through is our alarm manager, and it can be accessed in two ways. This alarm bell icon up here with the warning, it's telling me that there's some unacknowledged alarms. So I can click in, if I'm in Metasys in the operational view, click in to see what's going on here. Or something new that we've come up with is our standalone alarm manager and alarm monitor. This view is primarily designed for operation centers. I visit a lot of customers that have large screen monitors and maybe multiple monitors filtered with different alarm conditions. They might have high priority alarms on one screen and some other zone related alarms on another screen kind of filtered down. But we provide that kind of overview, so how well the site's managing alarms, how many unacknowledged, how many acknowledged alarms. If there's high priority alarms, I can quickly click on one of these bars and filter down the list of alarms just to that priority arranged. But what I wanted to show that kind of differentiates us from some of the industry is that we're able to roll this alarm, which occurs on a point, up to the affected equipment or space. So the operator now knows which room or which piece of equipment is affecting or is affected by this alarm. And that helps them be able to kind of rack and stack what is the most important alarm and where they should spend their time first. We show if the alarm is new, either via an audible sound or via this star that kind of blinks if there's a new alarm that comes in. But I'm going to click on an alarm, and what we show are all the details of that alarm. So when it occurred, what triggered it. I can quickly navigate to the equipment dashboard for this equipment or the space dashboard for the affected space. And I can also see the previous occurrences of the alarm. And I want to point this out because this is a difference as well in terms of how the industry does the alarm management today. We're able to roll up all the occurrences of the alarm over time into one row in the table. And what I mean by that, let's say there's a zone that's going in and out of alarm over time. Maybe it's generated 15 occurrences. Well, that generates a number of different events in the database, if you will, that need to be handled independently. So we're able to roll those up into one row so that we can acknowledge or discard those alarms in one operation. So really saving a lot of time from an alarm management standpoint, but it also helps our customers clean up alarms as well, so that the nuisance alarms can kind of clear out of the system to make the more important alarms more prevalent. We can filter down, again, based on space or equipment, so we're using that space and equipment framework. If I need to see alarms in a certain building versus another building, I can do that. I can filter by priority arrange, by alarm type, if it's a warning, a high alarm, low alarm, by a date range if I need to do that. And likewise with other areas in the system, we provide alarm reports as well. So I can download a PDF or CSV export of the view that I'm seeing as a user. And the last thing I really want to point out with Alarm Manager is our served by view. So for this particular alarm on this VAV, I can see if there's any other areas in the mechanical system that are in alarm, or other pieces of equipment rather. If the air handler's in an alarm, I'm going to want to filter down and see what alarm is on that air handler, because chances are, for instance, if the discharge air temperature is too high or low on my air handler, my VAV boxes are going to be affected in some way, causing an alarm condition downstream. So this is very a very unique view to Metasys. I'm going to go ahead and navigate back into the operational view of Metasys and show you the scheduling enhancements that we've made. So I'm at the campus again now, and I have the ability to see all the schedules at this campus. If they're occupied, unoccupied, for instance, what they're doing. I can drill down to any level, so if I just want to see the schedules affecting the administration building, I can go to my schedule widget for that administration building. I can also see schedules that are affecting a certain piece of equipment. So if I go back to the air handler and search for that and go over to my schedule widget, I can see the schedule that's affecting this air handler or this room or this VAV box, which makes it very easy to find a schedule. Previously, and in other systems that I've seen, the name of the schedule kind of dictates what that schedule is serving. But again, that's a barrier to learning the software, because the user really doesn't know what it's serving unless they look at how the system was programmed. So a nice way to visualize the schedules. But if I drill into this schedule, I'd like to show you the weekly view for the schedule. And what we've gone with is more of a consumer scheduling application or view. It's similar to maybe Outlook or Google Calendar or a lot of the other scheduling applications out there. But the key point there is, again, because a lot of us are familiar with how to schedule in those systems, scheduling in Metasys becomes that much easier as well. I can see what exceptions are on the schedule. I can add exceptions. I can go and change when a holiday calendar might be active for a holiday, or a snow day if you're in a school district, or an emergency, for instance, day. We can go in and change a whole set of schedules at once that way. We can modify, so I can edit the weekly schedule from here as well, but it's a nice way to come in and quickly adjust schedules, especially if you're on your tablet, or if you forget to schedule something on later at night, maybe VPN into the system, change that schedule, and now everything is working appropriately without having to physically be on the campus. I spoke earlier to the bulk scheduling actions, so I'm going to go back up to my campus level and go to my schedules on my campus. But I have the ability to select all the schedules and add an exception. So if I need to take a floor or a building and occupy that whole building, I can add an exception at a certain time to that, to all the schedules affecting that building. So previously we were having to do this one by one by one, so that saves a lot of time. I can also set up a weekly schedule, so I can take this weekly schedule, copy it, and paste it to other schedules that have the same or similar weekly schedule. Just another way that we're saving clicks, if you will, in the system, which saves a lot of time, not having to go through and do it one by one by one. As with the other areas in the system, we can have a schedule export, so I can export the details of all my schedules on campus. And the last thing that I'd like to show is our spaces authorization features. So I'm going to come in and act like I'm an admin user. I'm going to hit the user authorization. And let's go to my name. Here's Ryan. Right now I have access to everything in the system. It tells me I have access to the campus, to the building, to the hospital building, to the administration building, to the floors. I can quickly go through deny access and just give access to the administration building if I'm only managing the administration building. I can copy and paste this to multiple users that have that same authorization. But what this does is it filters down the spaces tree that we talked about so that the equipment and spaces are only visible to users that have access to that particular space or set of spaces in the authorization. What this also does is filter out alarms. So users that just have access to the administration building are only going to see alarms coming from the administration building. So it's a good way for those, again, those large distributed campuses or tenant facilities or other facilities where you have multiple users that only are managing one building to get into the system, drill in, kind of hone down to just the data that they need to see based on space. So to kind of recap everything, we're pulling in information that may have been in disparate places depending on the building automation system. For instance, if that data is in a user view or in the all items tree, if you're familiar with Metasys, or in a graphic, we're pulling those all into this equipment and space-based framework, which makes it really easy to find the data, makes it easy to diagnose problems for the entire mechanical system, and easy to command and make adjustments to fix those issues. So I'm pretty happy with it. We're getting a lot of good feedback on this version of the interface, and I'd just like to thank you for attending today and seeing what we have that we're just releasing here.